Welcome to Prep Central, New Mexico's premier high school sports show. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. We hope you'll consider that. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source. Hey there, everyone. Wanted to mention what is happening on my podcast this week, Preps Central. We're going to preview the second half of the prep basketball season, primarily for the larger classes, 5A and 4A. We're going to look at how some of the districts break down. And we're going to take a look at, both favorites and teams that maybe are not on your radar as we get into the second half, maybe even the final third of the regular season. So I hope you will tune in and join me. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Preps Central, the Albuquerque Journal's high school sports podcast. I'm James Yodice. I am the high school sports editor at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome. We've kind of hit a key point of the high school basketball season. We're going to primarily talk about basketball today. We have finished primarily with all the non-district part of the schedules. There are still a few stragglers out there, teams competing outside their own district in a rare game here or there. But this week brings us to the start of district play. So as I sit here and record, it is Tuesday the 21st. District play getting underway tonight, actually, for a lot of teams. By the time you see this podcast, it will have already begun. But yeah, we're into the meat of it now. We got about 6 weeks or so of district play before we get into district tournaments and then the 2 weeks of the state tournament. So today, I think what we're going to do is we're going to primarily just kind of give you a quick sketch of what to look for here in the second half of the season. There'll be a ton of storylines that we'll need to follow, but we're going to talk primarily about Class 5A and Class 4A today as we peek ahead. So tonight, Tuesday night, Volcano Vista, the three-time defending state champion, is playing Piedra Vista, Farmington playing Rio Rancho, and Cleveland playing Cibola. So that district, of course, has been ruling things, for pretty much the last decade, other than the Las Cruces team that won state in the pandemic year of 2020 when Las Cruces beat Capital in an empty pit. It's really been District 1 5A dominating the state tournament with state champions. So everything still runs through this district. That much is clear, and it's not just about Volcano Vista, though certainly the Hawks are right at the top of the list. You have to remember, four of 5A's, Class 5A's top 9 ranked teams are in this district. If you also include Cleveland, Cibola, which has been clearly and easily the best, most surprise story of the boys' basketball season. Cibola is ranked, I think, 5 or 6 in the Max Preps poll. They are 11-3. They've won some nice games. We're going to see how it pans out for my Cougars, my alma mater, in this district against some of the heavyweights like Cleveland and Volcano. We're going to see Cleveland, and I've talked a little bit about them before. This is a team with a really good guard, Elijah Martinez, and they've got some length on this team too. So we're going to see how Cibola pans out in district. Are they ready to sustain that momentum into district? And then, of course, we got Rio Rancho, which I think is ranked 9th in the latest computer poll. The Rams had a really good Metro tournament where they finished 3rd, and then they had a tough week coming out of Metros. They lost a road game in Santa Fe to St. Mike's, who's a Class 3A power, although Rio Rancho was missing several players due to injury or illness. And then Rio Rancho lost a home game to Roswell on Friday. So Rio Rancho had a tough week as they come out of the end of their non-district schedule, and they're playing Farmington as we broadcast tonight. So we're going to see about that district. Everything still runs through District 1 until somebody proves otherwise. Now, having said that, one of the storylines I think we're going to watch in the second half is how, if you assume Volcano Vista stays at the top, and there's no guarantee of that. I mean, they've shown some vulnerability. I mean, they've had several teams, Sandia, Hobbs, Rio Rancho, all play them right down to the wire. But if you assume for the moment that Volcano stays out in front, it's going to be interesting to see how teams arrange themselves behind Volcano. Nobody's going to want to be in Volcano Vista's half of the bracket when the state tournament comes, wherever Volcano ends up. So you got teams like Sandia and Hobbs, who clearly look like the two next best teams out there, that if things kind of held the way they've been holding so far, Sandia and Hobbs would both be not just on the opposite side of the bracket, but they'd have to play each other if they kept winning, into the tournament, if you assume they end up being the 2 and 3 seeds. So nobody's going to want to play Volcano Vista until they absolutely have to. So teams that are seeded 2, 3, 6, and 7, all those teams, if you assume Volcano will end up at the top of the bracket, all those other teams, 2, 3, 6, and 7, would be on the bottom half of the bracket away from Volcano, and you would definitely want that. You would not. The later you can play Volcano, the better if you want to actually win a state championship. So, that'll be interesting to watch. Outside the metro area, Hobbs clearly looks like the best team. They were up here the other day. I saw them play Cleveland, and they were up 12 against Cleveland on Saturday afternoon, looking really sharp. And then Cleveland came back and ended up taking a double-digit lead themselves, ended up winning the game 84-75. And as a sidebar, Remy Albrecht, the junior guard from Cleveland, had just a fantastic day with 47 points. I believe he had at least half a dozen assists and I think maybe 8 or 9 rebounds as well. He was tremendous, and he led that comeback. That was the best performance I've seen from any boy or girl so far this season. So he kind of put Cleveland on his back, and not just in any game. You're talking about a team that was ranked number 3 in the state in Hobbs, and Cleveland ranked number 5 by the coaches poll. So Cleveland, as a quick sidebar about Cleveland too, I'm not sure what Cleveland is going to offer. If Remy Albrecht is not playing at a really high level, does Cleveland have the type of balanced scoring and experience behind him to deal with some of the better teams in the district, specifically Volcano and Rio Rancho? So we're going to see about that. Remy, clearly good enough to put a team on his back, and there are not many players you can say that about. Kenyon Aguino from Volcano would be one of those guys. Jesus Lacone from Highland, when he's hot, could be one of those guys. There aren't that many guys out there that could just literally put an entire team on his back and carry them the way Albrecht did the other day against Hobbs. So, like I said, that district is going to be interesting to watch. Outside the metro area, we mentioned Hobbs. Roswell's having a very nice season. They've been up here a couple of times to play. Like I mentioned, they beat Rio Rancho up here the other day. Oregon Mountain is one of those teams I saw play in the Academy tournament back a month ago in mid-December. They are far more stout and sharp than I kind of thought they would be after losing their head coach in the offseason, and their 2 best players, 2 of probably the 5 or 6 best players in 5A who graduated. Oregon Mountain looked really sharp, and they continue to play well. That team in the Cruces-oriented district looks really good. And then you got Roswell and Hobbs, who are also going to bring a lot to the table. Of course, everybody angling for a first-round home game at state. That's top 8. In basketball, that's a big deal because otherwise you might end up having a hellacious road trip. I mean, you would not want to be a 9 seed and have to go play a number 8 seed like Roswell or Farmington or somebody, or Oregon Mountain or whatever. You don't want to be traveling in the first round if you don't have to. So, we're gonna see how all this shakes out. For now, it's still Volcano. Volcano's beaten all comers. They beat Hobbs. They beat Sandia. They play Rio Rancho again on Friday of this week. Rio Rancho led Volcano in the fourth quarter in the Metro semifinals a couple of weeks ago. So Rio Rancho knows they can play with Volcano. So, yeah, but so far Volcano has passed all their tests here in New Mexico. Their only 2 losses came to teams from Southern California. I want to talk for a second about District 5, 5A. So Albuquerque High has been kind of going under the radar. I've only seen them once, and that was opening night against Volcano Vista, and Volcano just smashed them badly that night. Albuquerque High looks to be the favorite, maybe not a heavy favorite. You got West Mesa, who's playing a lot of good basketball with a new head coach, and Atrisco Heritage in the mix as well. That's one of those districts. We'll have to see how they shake out. I believe Albuquerque High and Atrisco Heritage have a game on Wednesday night out at Atrisco. That'll give us, I think, a quick early indication of where we're at, especially with Albuquerque High. I need to get out and see the Bulldogs again. I feel like I caught them on a night when Volcano played just tremendous basketball. And the thing is about District 5, it could be only the district champion is going to get a home game for the state tournament. Everybody else might be 9 or lower. So, yeah, so there's, Albuquerque High, I think, is the highest ranked team in that district at, I believe, 9 by the Max Preps poll, which is one of the criteria. So at this point, you got to think only the district champion is going to wind up in the top 8 with a home game. And there's not even a guarantee of that, to be honest with you. Just because you win your district does not guarantee you a home game. It used to be that was the case. That is not the case anymore. So I'm interested to see how that district shakes out as well. Atrisco Heritage in particular, which has been so good for many years. They have not been playing great basketball, I would say, of late. But, we still have many weeks ahead with a lot of key games coming up. Let us switch to Class 4A basketball on the boys' side for a second. This is going to be a wild ride, it would appear, into the end of January and through February. I don't think we can say that there's absolutely a clear-cut best team out there like we have with Volcano Vista in 5A. There isn't a team like that in 4A that I can tell so far. Maybe one will emerge here in January and February. You got 2 pretty good teams outside the metro area with Espanola Valley and Artesia. Inside the metro area, the private schools, Hope Christian, St. Pius, Albuquerque Academy, which is actually playing better basketball than I imagined they would be under new coach Alvin Broussard, the former Sandia coach. They played Sandia really tough within, I think, 7 or 8 points when they met last week. So Academy clearly playing some good basketball. We mentioned Hope. We mentioned St. Pius. None of these teams, and we can include Valley and Del Norte in this group too, none of these teams clearly have what it takes to establish themselves as a clear number one. All these teams are teams you would say, hey, on any given night, watch out for them. They might catch you. And then, separate from all of these teams, is Highland, the defending 4A state champion. I finally went and watched them in person the other night against Valley, a game Highland won 48-41. I wanted to wait to watch Highland until Jesus Licon, their fantastic guard who led the state in scoring last year. I wanted to wait till he returned from his ACL injury before I watched Highland. Jesus is not there yet. In his 2 games last week against Bernalillo and Valley, I think he scored 7 points in one game, 8 in the other. He's not there yet. Valley, to be fair, Valley defended him extremely well the other night with Luciano Mondragon, their top defender. He was all over him. Didn't give him much room to shoot. But it's clear Licon is not there yet. And that's okay. I mean, he's coming back from an ACL. You would not expect any player, boy or girl, teenager or adult, to be at full 100% capacity as they come off an ACL injury. So, Licon, I'm sure, will improve as we go along. The bigger thing for Highland is, look, they're 8-9 as I sit here today. They had a couple of other players get injured, starters. They had another player, a really good athlete, quit the team. So they haven't nearly been at 100% pretty much the entire year. Not the way Coach Justin Woody probably would have preferred. So Highland, they remain one of those teams we're going to have to watch closely. If Licon can find his form, that will benefit everybody on that roster. And they still have plenty of kids that can play. Highland brought back, I think, 10 players this year, including Jesus Licon. That number's probably closer to 7 now, but they're still experienced. They can still defend, and they still got a lot of kids that know how to close out games. When they won state last year, remember, they beat Valley by a single point in overtime, and there was only 1 point scored in the entire overtime on a free throw. So Highland was protecting hard in that state championship game against Valley last March. So they've got kids, experienced kids who know how to close, and they're gonna have to lean on that, I think, quite a bit as they get into their district with teams like Hope and Del Norte in there as well, Academy. Forgive me, excuse me. Highlands in the other district with St. Pius. My mistake. Highlands going to need that, especially with regard to games against St. Pius, a team that has consistently played them close over the last couple of years. So I think Highland will be okay, but I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get from them over the next few weeks. I don't. They've got questions, and they're missing some firepower. And until Lacone gets back, somewhat close to where he was, Highland's going to have some questions as we go forward. The other 5A district, the other 4A district here in town has Del Norte and Academy and Hope and Valley. Going to be a very competitive district. Any one of these teams could emerge. Hard to say. But clearly none of them are a clear favorite. So that district in particular is going to be hugely competitive. I think we're going to see a lot of close games decided by single possessions between all those challengers, and they're going to need it because this is one of those districts, maybe only the top two teams, maybe end up with first round home games at state. We'll have to see, and for some teams in this district, specifically a team like Valley, they have a definite home court advantage when they play in the North Valley. So, there's going to be a lot of jostling there, and we're going to see how things look. The Highlands St. Pius district, I think it's still those two teams at the top. I have not seen St. Pius in person yet. That's one of my primary goals here. Now that district play has began, I need to get out and watch the Sartans. I haven't had a chance to see them in person yet, but Coach Ryan Myers does a fantastic job with them. And a quick note, before we go to the girls, I want to make a quick note about Class 3A boys, even though we're not going to talk about them in depth. Look, the North Central New Mexico District, is going to be as loaded and competitive as any boys district in New Mexico, anywhere, including District 1 5A. You've got Robertson, St. Mike's, Santa Fe Indian, West Las Vegas, all ranked in the top 5. I saw Robertson play last week. They were down here to play Bosque School. That is an impressive team. They're not lengthy, but they're small. They can defend. They can shoot. They can run. And they've got some experience. And they've got a couple of young kids on this team, too, that can really play. So Robertson's a team I like a lot. St. Mike's, as we mentioned, they beat Rio Rancho last week. That catches your eye. So, the games in that district between Robertson, St. Mike's, the Indian School, West Las Vegas, going to be a lot of fun. Those are the kind of games into February where, look, you got to get there early if you want a good seat because the crowds are going to sell these places out. So that's a quick look at the boys. Okay, let's switch over to the girls now. And we're going to work a little bit in reverse on the girls. I want to start with the team that's a major outlier in 5A girls basketball, and that is Albuquerque High. This team has had 2 tremendously successful seasons in each of the last 2 years, and they're having another really good season this year. Albuquerque High was a 9 seed each of the last 2 state tournaments. Even as a district champion and even with their record with 22, 23, 24 wins, they did not get a home game, even though they won their district and despite their record. And they had to go on the road in the first round of the state tournament. Now, for Albuquerque High, this didn't work out too badly because the 2 road games they had to play, one was against Sandia, one was against El Dorado. So there was no travel issue for the Bulldogs. This is one of those teams. I've seen Albuquerque High a couple of times now. They are scrappy. They are energetic. They got kids that can play. I've seen them play La Cueva. I've seen them play Sandia. And they can give teams fits. They absolutely can. But the district they have been playing in clearly has been hurting their cause in terms of getting, consideration for a first-round home game. The criteria, as the NMAA lays it out, just is not helping them because their district has just been so non-competitive. And a lot of people would say, hey, yeah, no wonder their record's so good. They're not playing in a very competitive district, and they're stacking a bunch of wins against teams that, frankly, are not terribly competitive. We're going to see a little bit of that going forward. I don't know if we'll see as much of it going forward because there are some other good teams in the Albuquerque High District. Las Lunas is in that district now, and Las Lunas is ranked number 4 in the state by MaxPrep, so they're ranked even higher than Albuquerque High. And West Mesa is having an under-the-radar decent season. So I think this district is more competitive, which is good for Albuquerque High, and it'll be really good if Albuquerque High can pick up a couple of nice wins against a team like Las Lunas going forward, because Las Lunas right now has the ranking advantage. That would be a big help for Albuquerque High. But anyway, I wanted to mention them up front because they're a team that can play quite a bit, and they can make a little bit of noise. But I know they feel disrespected because they can't seem to get a home game at state. So, with that aside, looking at the rest of 5A girls basketball, look, we all know Sandia and Hobbs, or Hobbs and Sandia, however you want to arrange those two. Hobbs has got the higher ranking now because they're coming off their win at the Metro tournament. These are clearly the two best teams in 5A by a mile. There are a lot of other good teams out there. Mayfield's ranked, if you look at the new MaxPreps poll, Mayfield's ranked 3, Las Lunas is ranked 4. I actually went and watched those two teams play each other very early in the season. It was kind of a choppy game. Those two teams have been surging over the last few weeks, and there are a whole bunch of other teams in 5A that are going to be angling to get a home game in the state tournament. I mean, you're talking about a list that includes not just Mayfield and Las Lunas, but Farmington, which is a team I have not seen yet. Rio Rancho, Albuquerque High, we talked about. La Cueva, Clovis, Volcano Vista. Farmington and VV are two teams I have not yet had a chance to watch. I will now that they're in the same district. Hopefully I can get out and watch them play each other. But I've seen most of the top 5A girls teams so far this year, except for those couple, and Clovis as well. A lot of teams going to be angling to get home for the first round. In District 1, Rio Rancho clearly the favorite, even though Coach Lori Mabry has been out. She just made a quiet return last week against La Cueva. She told me she's not going to be taking over any head coaching duties. Eric Jack, one of her assistant coaches, is going to continue to run the team, is what Lori told me last week when I sat down for an interview with her. But Lori is back sitting with the team for home games and local games. She's probably not going to travel, but I think the girls really like having her back, and she lends her expertise in a way that no other coach on that staff can do. So, Rio Rancho's had a very nice season. Their losses are all high-quality losses to teams like, I think they have 2 losses to Sandia. They have a loss to Hobbs. Rio Rancho is a good young team, and they look like the favorite clearly in that district. Farmington's been kind of strange. They had a couple of weird results. I think they lost almost by 70 points when they played Hobbs, and there has to be a reason for that. I can't imagine Hobbs being that much better than Farmington, but Farmington clearly still a major factor in 5A girls. And then you have Volcano, which has been ruling this district. Volcano was in the state championship game last year against Sandia. Volcano's probably slipped a bit. They were hurt a bit by graduation in the offseason, and it shows. But you know that the Hawks and Coach Lisa Villarreal, who has, I think, 5 rings, she'll be okay with the Hawks. But Rio Rancho, as district begins, clearly is the favorite in that district. So that's a district that's going to have some good basketball between Rio Rancho, Farmington, Volcano. Not sure about the rest. I have not seen Cleveland or Siebel yet in person, but I think the 3 teams I just mentioned clearly going to be at the top. And then, of course, you got Sandia in District 2. There's no other team that can really, I think, stay with them over 32 minutes. La Cueva's got some kids led by Jordan Dyer, who's one of the best, probably one of the 3 best players in the state, easily. La Cueva can hang with Sandia, I think, a little bit, but over the course of 4 quarters, Sandia is going to wear you down. La Cueva's not there yet, and I don't think there's any other team in that district that's going to really put up a big challenge to Sandia. So I think, for Sandia, the thing is just making sure they stay healthy and stay hungry as they look to repeat, as state champions when we get to March. Let's shift to 4A for a quick second. Look, in the same way that Sandia and Hobbs are the 2 best teams in 5A, Gallup and Kirtland Central are the two best teams in Class 4A. Gallup is still undefeated. Kirtland just has a couple of losses, one to Rio Rancho at Rio Rancho's tournament, and then they lost to Hobbs in the Metro Final here in Albuquerque a couple of weeks ago. Gallup and Kirtland, we're going to see a lot of them over the second half of the season. The first time they play is going to be this coming Saturday in Kirtland, a game that I am planning to attend. These two teams are ranked number 1 and 2. Gallup 1, Kirtland 2. I've seen Kirtland several times already. This will be my first look at Gallup, but yeah, there's a wide gap clearly. In the same way in 5A, Sandy and Hobbs are up here. Everybody else is down here. It's the same way in 4A. There's some good teams in 4A. Valencia, which was expected to have a really strong season here in the metro area, is going along really well. St. Pius too. Albuquerque Academy's got a really nice team that's diverse with some options, both inside and out. But Gallup and Kirtland clearly are the two best teams. And at this point, really hard to imagine somebody getting in the way of a Gallup-Kirtland final when we get to the pit in a couple of months. But, Gallup and Kirtland going to see each other for the first time on Saturday afternoon in Kirtland. And then a couple of weeks later, they're going to play in Gallup. So we're going to see how it goes with Kirtland. Kirtland's got a young group, younger, I think, than Gallup. So I think this will be a great test, both for Kirtland, even playing at home, and Gallup. Should be a big crowd. I very rarely get a chance to get on the road and cover basketball outside the metro area. I do quite a bit in football. I very rarely get a chance to do this in basketball. So I'm excited to get on the road to the Four Corners on Saturday and watch these two go at it. We talked about Valencia. The Jaguars, and they're in the same district with, St. Pius. The Jaguars have been playing better basketball, I think, on the whole, than St. Pius has through the first, 65% of this season. And we're going to see how Valencia continues to evolve. That's one of those teams on the girls' side, kind of like Albuquerque High in 5A. Valencia is a team I'm super interested in. I know their personnel. I haven't seen them in person yet this year. I will during district play, but Valencia. Yeah, they got kids, and they have a style that's going to be problematic for just about everybody. So that's kind of how 5A and 4A shake out on the girls' side. We're going to be talking a lot about all these districts, boys and girls, going forward over the next half dozen weeks until we get to the district tournaments. But that's primarily all I've got for you today. One quick note as I get out today. I wanted to mention the Joe Vivian Classic, the big wrestling tournament that was here in town the other day. Volcano Vista's boys and Atrisco Heritage's girls were the team champions. A very big meet, including several schools from outside the state. The last remaining big meet for local wrestling teams would be Metros. That will be coming up at, January 31st, February 1st. And then we'll have a several-week break until we get to the state tournament. So I appreciate you watching. I meant to shout them out at the beginning, and I didn't. My apologies. Wanted to shout out Western New Mexico University, the sponsor of our podcast. We thank them for their support. Very much appreciated. You can catch the podcast, as always, at abqjournal.com. YouTube is probably the best place if you want to find them, but other platforms as well. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and we're going to see you next week.